First story. My narcissistic mom and sister got upset that I beat my cancer and I'm living longer, as they will no longer get my inheritance. Now, mom is calling me to include my nephew in my inheritance in case cancer comes back. So I gave her an ultimatum and cut ties with them. I am 47, was diagnosed with cancer about 6 months ago. I don't know what happened, but I was misdiagnosed. It wasn't as malignant as the initial diagnosis.
Anyway, I'm recovering.
I don't know why, but I felt like mom, 73, and sister, 35, weren't all glad about me recovering. I didn't make a fuss, but I told my girlfriend, 38, about my observation. She told me not to worry and that they were probably still in shock. We were invited to my mom's house last Sunday, and that's when my nephew, 12, was a bit angry and blurted out something about him thinking he was going to be rich soon because I was sick. It felt like a gut punch. I'm childless, so I don't really know when people start being holes, but it felt like he's still too young for that. So the next explanation is that he's heard the adults around him. I laughed and looked at my family. They pretended that they didn't hear. Only my girlfriend watched me in horror. I asked my nephew why he would think he would get rich when I had my girlfriend. He was confused. I saw my sister turn around at that announcement. My girlfriend spent the rest of the evening holding my hand and caressing it. Mom called the day after, and she was dancing around the subject. I'm trying to find out more. I never discussed my will with anyone, but what were they expecting? I've been with my girlfriend for 13 years. She's the love of my life and my family. What is going on? I'm changing my will, excluding my nephews whom I thought I would leave some for. It's going to charity instead. Update to my story with my family who seemed disappointed that I beat my illness. So, this blew up. I wasn't expecting that, and I can't thank you enough. The message is loud and clear. Mary, you're GF. In my defense, neither of us have ever thought about it. We're happy, and we've always seen each other as each other's family. Unfortunately, that's probably not how the world sees us, and it's sad about the will. I'm guessing the majority of you are from the USA. But where I come from, as long as I don't have children, nobody can really contest a will. My mom would be the only person who could contest, and it wouldn't work since only children's inheritance rights are protected by law and can't be willed away. I spent all night yesterday reading your comments while my girlfriend was sleeping beside me. She woke up around 3 a.m. and smiled at me. God, I love her beautiful face. I just blurted out, "Will you marry me?" She smiled even more and said yes, and then snuggled up in my arms. I was in heaven. In the morning, she asked me, "Did you propose yesterday?" She had the biggest smile on her face, and I said yes. She said, "Finally," with a twinkle in her eye, and then she kissed me. She then told me that she was here when I felt ready to talk about my nephew. I don't have any social media, but my girlfriend does, and she shared that we're engaged. Mom called me 2 hours later to ask if it was a joke. She asked why now, and I didn't hold back. I told her that for the past 10 years or so, I've been treated as a cash cow for my sister and her family, always expected to pay and only the most expensive things. My sister even insinuated that her oldest son, 14, is expecting a Porsche when he turns 18. And instead of acknowledging my generosity, they were disappointed that I didn't die. Mom started crying at this, swearing that it was all in my head. They're all so grateful and happy that I'm fine, but I shouldn't forget that they're my real family. My girlfriend is still young, and she could move on with her life should the worst happen, but they'll always be my family. Mom said that GF also has a career of her own and is childless, so she isn't in need. I might add that neither is my sister nor her family. I told Mom well that my GF has always been my family, and now she's becoming my family on paper too. Mom started crying again and asked me if I'm planning to disinherit the boys now because of a stupid comment made by a child, and if I did disinherit them, if that also meant I would disinherit my GF's niece. I told her that she should wait for me to die to find out, shouldn't she? She said there's no point in talking to me when I'm like this. She begged me not to do anything stupid and wished me a good night. No congratulations, nothing. Now what's left is to find my girlfriend. No, my fiancé. An engagement ring. She's very simple and minimalistic. She wants something small and simple. Her only request is that I choose it. Please send any suggestions my way because I'm new to this business. I will put some photos of what I found so far on my page since this sub doesn't allow sharing images. Tell me your opinion and give me your best ring. Damn, this got long. Sorry, guys. Edit. I'm not going to make another update. Thanks again for all the congratulations. It felt good to get the support. And thank you for all the suggestions about the engagement rings since neither of us like attention, especially my fiancée. What a beautiful thing to call her. We're eloping. She was very happy when she suggested that, and I found out I wanted the same. Instead, when I'm fully recovered, we're taking a long vacation to the M or Mexico. Right now, I don't wish for anything else. Second story. My girlfriend's partner physically assaulted me after I told her to cut ties with him, or else I broke up with her. Now she wants me to not press charges against him. No. I will get him behind bars. So, I, 28M, met my girlfriend Clara, 29F, about 5 years ago, and we moved in almost 4 years ago. Our relationship has always been open, and we were free to date whoever. After we moved in, we set a few rules, mainly a weekly check-in and dedicated private time for the two of us. The first 3 years were great, and last year we started going to SX clubs together, and Clara got to finally experience her first MF. And that is how she met Gary, 30 plus M. They started seeing each other, and it quickly became 4, 5 nights a week, with several being sleepovers. When Clara canceled one of our nights together, I protested, and she said she would make it up but never did. On one of our check-ins, I said I was feeling my needs were being neglected, and she was spending too much time with Gary. It turned into an argument, but she finally promised to be more mindful of our relationship. That lasted about 2 weeks. A few weeks ago, I had a company social function we were invited to. I had RSVP'd and sent Clara a text reminding her the day before the event. She said she couldn't make it due to a band Gary wanted to go see being in town. When she came home the day after, I blew up and said I was tired of taking care of her share of the chores around the house and being treated like a roommate. It got ugly, and she ended up leaving and going to Gary's apartment. She came home early Monday morning before I left for work and said she was sorry and we needed to work things out. I told her we needed to set some new boundaries and schedules she could abide by, and we could talk about it tonight. I left and got halfway to work when I got a text asking where all her work clothes were. I replied in the dirty clothes hamper. I told I washed all my clothes, but I wasn't going to be her effing ma any longer, especially if I had been demoted to roommate. When I got home, Clara was fixing dinner. I asked her if she wanted to break up and go live with Gary. I understood, but I needed to know where we stood. She said she wanted us to stay together and not fight anymore. So I said we needed a schedule, and at the very least I wanted 2 nights in a row with her and a Friday date night every week. She agreed that was fair, and we made up and had a good couple of days together until she spent the night at Gary's house. And the next day she told me that our agreement wasn't fair because Gary didn't have a say in it. I told her that if we were going to live together, then we needed to have an agreement between us and that I wasn't interested in having an agreement or dating Gary. If she didn't want to keep the agreement we made, then she needed to find a new roommate, and she needed to take care of her cat because I was done taking care of her. Clara wants to talk, but I feel Gary is calling all the shots, and I just need to know where she stands. Is this even salvageable, or is it time to just move on? So I know this is going to come up, but I am seeing other people. So it's not like I'm just sitting home feeling sorry for myself when she is gone. But I need to know if I need to look for someone who can fulfill my needs and whom I can make life plans with. TD. I need to vent and get advice on how to handle my girlfriend of 5 years downgrading me to roommate status. OP updated a few times in the comments. Comment 1. Well, that was good advice. But Clara came home from Gary's and wanted to talk. She gave me a counterproposal that I won't even waste time typing out. I asked again if we were through and if all the plans we had made were just pipe dreams. She still says she loves me and wants to be with me, but she has feelings for Gary as well, and I should respect that. I said I think she loves having a roommate and that my needs and feelings don't matter. So I gave her another deal. If we are going to stay together, then we have to fix us without Gary's influence. I told her she had to cut contact with Gary for a week. No calls, no texts, no nothing. And then if we get back to where we were, she can start to see Gary again. But only twice during the week and no sleepovers. She said there was no way that would work, and it was just me being cruel. I reminded her that in a few weeks we were supposed to be at a wedding in North Carolina, Our friends want both of us to be at the wedding party as bridesmaids and groomsmen. I told her if we didn't work things out, I wasn't going, which meant that she wasn't going to be able to go either, and she could explain to our friends why we were backing out of the wedding after already being fitted for tuxes and gowns. She cried foul and said I was just being mean, but I didn't budge and said the choice was hers, but it was final. She wanted to go talk to Gary about it, and I said, you could call him one more time and talk about it. But if she went over there, it was to stay, and when she came back, it would be to get all her stuff because I was tired of trying and getting stepped on. She finally agreed and called Gary to tell him. I didn't listen, but I heard her raise her voice a few times. After I asked her to block him on her phone and all her social media and told her if I found out they had any contact, the deal was off and we were done. I know this sounds controlling and vindictive, but it's the only way I know to get back to where we were, and if it doesn't work, we both move on. Comment 2. Clara and I had a productive discussion this morning, and we have agreed to couple counseling this week. She deleted her Snap and WhatsApp, showed me her phone, and said she had nothing to hide and wanted to be transparent. Gary tried to call me several times this morning and finally sent a text wanting to talk with me. I answered his next call, and we argued a little. I told him I thought my first proposal was more than fair, and when he shot that down, I felt it was time for a different course of action and told him what Clara and I had talked about. I said Clara was free to walk away from the agreement we made at any time, and that it was totally up to her. I told him I thought he was out to break us up, and if it was up to me, I would veto their relationship right now. He made a bunch of stupid remarks to piss me off, so I hung up and blocked him. Comment 3. Clara called me today around lunchtime. Gary couldn't stand being cut off and came to her work to ask her to go to lunch and talk. She refused, and he got loud and made a scene. She ended up getting security to remove him from the building. He embarrassed her at work, and she is livid. She then had to answer a lot of personal questions to her boss about who he was and more questions about us. When she got home, she wanted to call and talk to him. I said that was a bad idea, and she said there were things she needed to tell him and said she would do it on speaker so I could hear. So, I listened as she called him. She told me that coming to her work and embarrassing her was unacceptable. She needed space to work on our relationship that she had neglected, and now she needed at least 2 weeks with no contact before they could see each other. He kept trying to talk over her, but she shut him down and told him if he couldn't respect her wishes, then maybe I was right and she would cut him off permanently. Then she hung up the phone. She got off and broke down telling me about the fallout from work. Her boss is making her pay for a window Gary broke as security was escorting him out, gave her a verbal warning, and said if it happened again, she would get a letter in her file. Relevant comments. Deadworth. I honestly hope this is the end of Gary for the both of you. Massive red flags to show up at Clara's work like this. Also, Clara's boss is giving her a verbal warning over a potential abuser coming to her workplace unannounced. Op replied, Clara is still extremely agitated about the incident, but I don't know that he is completely done just yet. Let's just say that Clara may have taken off her rose-colored glasses. It's been really hard not to pile on and say I told you so or make other disparaging comments about him. Her coworkers said her boss felt like her coworkers and the potential clients that were in the lobby were put at risk, and the whole thing was grossly unprofessional. They went from arguing to yelling, and when Gary got physical, Clara had to get the security guard to escort him off the premises. The subject matter and details that Gary was yelling at the top of his lungs were evidently a bit too scandalous, seeing as I had attended many company functions as her plus one and was considered her other half. Update. So, a quick recap. Clara, my girlfriend, started dating Gary and was spending almost all her time with him until I threatened to leave and made her block him for a week so we could work on our relationship. He couldn't stand it and showed up at Clara's work, which caused a scene because she would go talk with him at lunch and had to be forcibly removed from her workplace. Friday night, we had a double date with another couple, dinner followed by one of our favorite bands at a club downtown. Dinner was great, and we had a good table reserved at the club. As I'm coming back from the men's room, I see Gary who has spotted Clara and is making a beeline for her. I got to the table first and told Clara we needed to leave. Gary told Clara he needed to talk to her, and I said something like, in a week maybe, and then he sucker punched me. I got up off the floor and just looked at him, and he hit me again. By that time, the bouncers had him and were walking him to the door. By the time I got to the door, The cops had him and asked if I wanted to press charges, and I said absolutely. I took a selfie to preserve the moment, and he bloodied me up pretty good. Needless to say, we didn't stay for the show. Clara drove us home, and on the way, asked if I was really going to the press, and if maybe it would be better if we just let it go. I said no, I was assaulted, and he wasn't going to get away with that. By the time we got home, my face was swollen and changing colors, and when Clara saw my face, she just cried. She cleaned me up and got a couple of ice packs for the swelling. She called Gary, which went to voicemail obviously, but she told him off and said he had gone too far and she never wanted to hear from him again, then added we were filing a VP ASAP. This morning, we talked mainly about ways to keep this from getting out of hand again. She set some new boundaries for herself and set a limit on how long she could spend with a new partner. She set some pretty tight parameters that I won't hold her to because they're not realistic. We have both said some hurtful things in the last few weeks that left some deep wounds, but I think we can get past it if we get back to where we were. I'm thinking about asking her to marry me. I know she wants it and thinks it will bind us closer together, but there is some trust that needs to be rebuilt first. Relevant comments. Throwaway 2255th. I honestly said it in another post. Clara asking you not to press charges would be the final nail in the coffin. If ever a partner said that to me, especially after what specifically had happened to you, that would be it. Honestly, are you okay, man? Maybe you should reevaluate your relationship. It really is not cool. And I get the sense you were trying to sweepingly describe the severity of her actions. Op replied, the bar was dark, and she never got a good look at my face until we got home. By then, it had started to swell and turn colors. I don't think she thought I got hurt that badly, and when she realized it, she did a 180 and unloaded on him, even if it was a voicemail. At first, she said she thought filing charges would make things worse, but later she was all for it. Third story. My mom committed self-harm after our father proposed to his affair partner. Besides our reassurance to her now, father wants to reconcile after his new wife abandoned him. I'm 14, and I have two brothers, 17 and 15. Our mom and dad told us that they were getting divorced, which was bad enough already. Our dad introduced us to his new girlfriend, and it was very obvious they had been seeing each other way before the divorce, and my oldest brother started interrogating her, and she admitted that she had been seeing my dad for a year before the divorce. I know maybe it's not good to be taking sides in a situation like this, but my siblings and I all told our mom multiple times that we were on her side and would help her with anything she needs. The three of us went out of our way to help her. We made her favorite foods every day we were at her house, spent hours with her every day talking to her, watched movies with her, etc. My brother would wake up 2 hours early to drop my mom off at work by car instead of her having to take the subway like she usually does. Or if I were at my dad's place doing homework, I would FaceTime my mom, and we would just be there together, even if we weren't saying anything. I thought my mom was doing well, and she looked like she was fine, at least in front of us. But my dad told us that he was planning to marry his girlfriend, which was horrible news, and he had a really long call with my mom, and he told her the same thing. The next day in school, my siblings and I got called into the office, and our dad told us our mom had committed self-harm. This was 2 weeks ago. I know it sounds violent, but all I want to do is beat the SHD out of my dad and stepmom. I won't actually. My stepmom has never mentioned my mom once and is acting like she didn't exist other than at the funeral. She acts nice to us, which makes me even more mad because she's trying to act like a good person after what she did to my family. My dad acted like he was sad for a week and then completely moved on. They're still going forward with the marriage. I hate them both so much. I'm literally starting to cry as I'm writing this. The only thing keeping me sane are my brothers and friends. Does anyone have any advice? Update. I spoke to one of my school counselors, and she gave me information about a teen support group. I went there earlier with one of my brothers, and I thought it was helpful. It wasn't just self-harm. It was people whose family and friends died from cancer, car accidents, etc. I'm going again next week. For those of you talking about staying with someone else, my cousin and her husband live in the same city as us. I haven't been staying with them, but my brothers and I have been going there after school and then going back home at night, and she and her husband have been helping us a lot. They've said we can move in with them, and we told them we wanted to. They're going to contact a lawyer to see if there's anything that can happen for that. Today, We told our dad and stepmom we didn't want to stay with them, and he got really upset. Not angry upset like he started crying. After we told them, our stepmom spoke to us privately and said she had been having a very hard time the past 2 weeks and didn't know what to say because she felt personally responsible for my mom's self-harm and that she wishes she could go back in time and not do any of this. She said if we wanted, she would leave our dad and us if it would help us heal from this. I didn't say anything because I didn't know how to reply to that, and we never really gave her an answer. TLDR. Speaking to cousin about moving in with her, going to support group, speaking to stepmom about the situation as well. Final update. My brothers and I spoke to our stepmom and told her that we weren't going to tell her what to do and that she had to decide on her own. To our surprise, she ended up leaving. Before she left, she told us to call or text her if we needed anything or wanted to talk about anything. She also said if we needed any help paying for college to ask her, and she would help us as much as she could. Obviously, I won't take her money. Apparently, her sister is a therapist, and she gave us her phone number as well. She was crying the entire time and saying she didn't mean for any of this to happen. I know people were saying she was being manipulative, but she actually looked remorseful. My cousin and her husband are going to apply to be our legal guardians. Their lawyer said that it would be hard if my dad is not on board because if he's not there, would need to be proof that he is actively abusing us, which he's not. If he is on board, then it would be way easier. We had a really long talk with our dad. We started at dinner, and we talked until like 4 a.m. We talked about too many things to list them all here, but my dad was crying a lot. I've never seen him cry, even when my mom died. At the end, he told us that none of this was worth it and that he just wanted us and my mom back. He refused to consent to us staying with our cousins. After we talked, my older brother talked to him privately the next day, and a little after that, my dad sat us down and said that he would consent if it would help us recover from the whole situation, and he made us promise to call him every day. I was honestly surprised that dad gave up so easily and assumed we would be staying with him, but I think he's just numb from losing basically everything he had and doesn't want to fight anymore. That's pretty much it. I guess from now on, I'll just have to move on. Maybe after some time, I can reconcile with my dad. TLDR. Stepmom left, moving in with cousin. Thank you for watching the video. If you are interested in listening to these kinds of stories, we've got more in store for you. Simply subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, and share it with your friends.